Well, go on, everybody. Lennox here from S123 Trader. This is the weekly playbook outlook for the week of October 25th to October 30th, Sunday to Friday. Hoping everybody's doing well. I'm going to take a look at all the FX futures and gold, along with perhaps Bitcoin, if we get a chance. All right, so just looking on I'm using investing.com, looking at the technical strong and weakness, strength and weakness in different pairs, basically the futures. I'm looking at gold, for example, here that's showing, and primarily what I'm concentrating on is, of course, for the week, so the daily, weekly time frame, and looking at gold on the daily and lower, you can see it's weak and neutral on the weekly. The U.S. dollar futures, U.S. 30 Dow, showing a little bit of weakness also below the daily, but strength on the weekly. And the New Zealand dollar is looking very strong. The Swiss is looking very strong. Euro is looking very strong. Japanese is strong. The Aussie is a bit neutral to weak. British pound is a mix and a little bit strong on the longer term. U.S. dollar looking very weak overall. Canadian dollar looking strong in the longer term, and the Mexican peso also looking strong. So a quick look at that, and now we'll look at the charts to see what story they're telling us. Okay, so let me go over to the charts. Okay, so just make this bigger. I'm going to get a template that I have that I use and start with that. Okay, so we're going to start with the Australian dollar, and we'll go to the weekly time frame, and again on the weekly time frame. So based on what the portfolio, the strength and weakness of the pairs and the currencies was telling us, it looked like we had in the Australian dollar some strength, I believe, going into. Let me just double check to make sure that I've got this right. And so Australian dollar it was a little bit neutral to weak. Sorry, it was a little bit weak to neutral for the daily and the weekly, and that's what it looks like on the charts as well. You can see we're turning to the downside a little bit here. We've reached a very strong resistance area, and we are now turning to the downside. So it looks like for the remainder of the week, it's possible. So again, this is on the weekly, and on the weekly, we're looking at, of course, this current bar, and it's already turning red to signal down move. And if I drop to the daily time frame, okay, you can see it is indeed trending down. Okay, so possibility of this continuing to the downside for the remainder of the week is totally there. It could also, of course, do something like this, where it just goes to here and then starts to go again. So that's totally possible. But in the short term, it looks like we are heading to the downside in the Aussie. So taking that into consideration, you would be looking for plays against Aussie. Anything that has strength against the Aussie would be good to play. Okay, so that's what the takeaway for the Aussie currency. Let's take a look at the CAD. Okay, the Canadian dollar on the weekly. So the Canadian dollar, it was the opposite. It had strength going into tonight here. So it's right now, again, on the weekly, we have a red bar, but we're also in an upward trend, although we also hit the resistance area here, and price pulled back, but now we're pushing back towards that resistance area. So that's what it looks like the Canadian dollar is trying to do, is trying to make a play for that high. And the structure is playing out. It looks like we should attempt to get past that area in the upcoming week. So dropping to the 4 hour to take a closer look at this. This is what I'm seeing. So you can see right now we are turning to the downside a little bit here, but this could again turn around and start going back up again, because our overall structure is still in play. Our overall structure meaning that yes, actually looking at it now from the 4 hour, maybe we are going to be heading down at this point. So the strength and weakness is showing strength on the daily and the weekly. However, on the shorter term, it is showing weakness, and this is what's happening right now. So we're getting a pullback in the short term. So we could see a pullback first before we continue going back up again. So that's what it looks like it's playing out at this point. Now, this could also be a very strong indication that we could even go further down. So one of the things we can do is to use the fib retracement tool, and just get an idea of a possible retrace. Let me just put the magnet on, make sure we've got those magnetized to the points. And looking at if we look at a retrace even to the 50% area, that would be right back down to this support area here. So that's totally realistic, and we could even see further drop down to the 61% retracement. That's what it's looking like right now for the Canadian dollar in the short term. So once price, if and when price does get down to this area, we could then see a turnaround. Will that happen before the end of the week? That's totally possible, but right in the current short term, we're heading to the downside. Okay, let's take a look at the US dollar, and we'll go to the weekly on that one as well. And on the weekly, we are clearly heading to the downside. Okay, so dropping to the daily, we come a little closer look, and that's the trajectory right now. It looks like we are indeed heading south. Okay, so we're a little bit sideways right now, and again, the US dollar was giving us a lot of weakness going into the week. So let's drop down to the 4 hour, take a closer look, and you can see where we are indeed heading to the downside. We're taking a little bit of a bounce at this point here, but overall, we looking like right now it's looking like it wants to head up. We could see a retrace right now of this current move, and maybe back up to this area. So a little bit of strength maybe in the short term, but overall the trajectory is to the downside. Okay, so that's short-term move to the upside for the US dollar. Okay, let's take a look at the euro on the weekly. And the euro was telling us lots of strength, and it's also similar to the Aussie. It's pushing up towards this resistance area right now. On this, after a pullback, it's pushing towards that area. So on the lower time frame, on the daily, what I'm seeing there is a clear move to the upside right now. So a lot of strength in the euro, and if you want to take advantage of that. So on the 4 hour, we are indeed pushing up very strongly this move, and what I would expect this move to continue up. Now, what's happening here is just a little pullback and a retrace of this current move here, and then we would likely see a move to the upside right here. Okay, so that's the euro. Okay. All right, let's take a look at the British pound. I think next, no, Japanese yen. Oh, actually, gold. Let me not skip over gold. Let's go gold. Go in order. Okay, on the weekly. So gold still battling in this triangle up here. We were in a triangle like this, kind of broke through, but we're right dead center and very much neutral. So gold was telling us lots of neutrality And that's where what you can see right there. That's exactly what it is. We're sideways. So we're in a sideways type of pattern, and we're right in the middle of that pattern. So waiting for a breakout one way or the other, and the most likely play would be to the upside, I would say. But right now it's an iffy situation. So I would be very careful if you want to be playing gold, and it's very volatile. So I'm not going to say yes we're going to drop or yes we're going to go. Right now it's very choppy, very volatile. So you have to be careful with gold. Okay, let's take a look at the Japanese yen on the weekly. Okay, so the weekly Japanese yen has been very strong to the upside. Okay, so lots of moves to the upside, very choppy, very volatile as well. On the daily, okay, again, very choppy. Japanese yen is telling us there's lots of strength here, and indeed, I can see on the daily that we do have the possibility of a move to the upside. So looking like we do indeed have some strength. Dropping down to the 4 hour to take a closer look. And yes, we are at that level where after this strong move, we came back down, but it looks like it wants to push back to the upside. Now we could get a further, move like this before it does go, but imminently this should be pushing to the upside. So strength in the Japanese yen going forward. Let's now take a look at New Zealand, and on the weekly, New Zealand very strong on the weekly, and again we're at a resistance. So it took a turn back down, but now it's pushing back up towards that resistance area. On the daily time frame, it's trying to push out. Okay, so right now we're really sideways. It's trying to find a way out of there, and that could happen here, or it could go sideways for a bit more before it does. But looking like it wants to push to the upside, and for in New Zealand, we were getting lots of strength. So this looks pretty good. Let's go to the 4 hour and to get a closer look. And indeed, it's very strong. And it's definitely possible that we could, in the short term, get a little bit of a retrace before it takes off again, but looking pretty strong overall. Okay, and next we have the Mexican peso. And I'll go with the weekly again. And on the weekly, very strong Mexican peso. On the daily, very strong Mexican peso against the US dollar. On the 4 hour time frame, still very strong. So Mexican peso, one has lots of strength overall, but right now at this current point, it looks like it wants to retrace a little bit before it goes again. So I would be cautious about going gung ho long before this retrace. It might retrace first before it goes again. Okay, so be aware of that. Okay, and we're also at a resistance area. That's the other takeaway. So you have to be a little cautious when price is up at a resistance area. So we could get a pullback, that's certainly. Okay, let's take a look at the British pound. Go to the weekly on that. And British pound was showing lots of strength in the longer term, a little bit mixed in the shorter term. So after reaching resistance, it pulled back dramatically, but now it's trying to fight back up to that resistance area. So on the daily time frame, very strong to the upside, and again a little pullback at this point. So if we come to the 4 hour and take a closer look at it, what we're seeing here is again nice move up, a pullback, and we should expect a further move to the upside for the British pound going into this week. Okay. And next we look at the S&P 500. Okay, so on the weekly as well, just to give you an idea of what it looks like for the S&P for the week. So S&P new highs, pullback, trying to get back to those new highs, can't do it. It's pulling back right now. Is it just pulling back and before it goes again? That's totally possible. So let's take a closer look. That's on the weekly. On the daily, Okay, this is what it looks like it's doing, and we should more than likely assault that high again. Will it do that this week? It's also possible, depending on the news and earnings and so forth. Right now, again, it's taking a little bit of a dip, but looking like it wants to push back to the upside. Any breach of this area, and we could be in for further downside, but it looks pretty good that it should turn around and continue to the upside at this point. Okay. And that's for that. So I just wanted to take a look at Bitcoin. Okay. Whoop. BTC. Okay. And on the weekly time frame, very strong on Bitcoin, but key takeaway, we're at a resistance area. So on the daily, again, looking very strong after this move, and not much in its way right now. So hard to get in now at this point, but it is a very strong Bitcoin going forward. So with weakness in gold, Bitcoin looks like it wants to continue to the upside. Of course, right now it's looking like it wants to turn back down. Maybe a short-term pullback after this big huge move up. That could certainly happen first, but the overall trajectory is to the upside. All right, so that's a look at what's setting up for the week. So profitable trading to everyone. Be safe. Be done now.